and my compliments to you at home as the Packers play complimentary football and beat the 49ers today. We will get out to Tim Van Voorn and Lily Zhao in a moment, but first, let's start with tonight's starting lineup. Well grounded, the Packers run all over the 49ers at Lambeau Field. How sweep it is. College basketball teams enjoy a perfect week. Matt LaFleur goes blue and makes us say what. The Bucks enjoy their stay downtown, and our high school hotshot takes us for a ride.
You know, we've been feeling, a certain way from, the previous year. So regardless of who was out there, we knew what we came in there to do. And, that was to really ultimately dominate the game. And I think we did that today.
And that's Xavier McKinney following the Packers' 38-10 win over the 49ers. You see Tim, you see Lily. They are at the Lambeau Field atrium. Tim, let's start with that. I mean, this is a team that relied on its defense a lot and made the most of it. We haven't always seen that this season, but today they were perfect once they got the ball turned over into their hands.
And Xavier McKinney's right. I think they did dominate this game. The D dominating and helping the Packers push out to that wide margin and beating up the Niners today. You have to commend that defense. Still not getting a ton of pass rush effect, really, and making other quarterbacks throw things around, but very alert in the backfield. Xavier McKinney's interception today, great hand-eye coordination. You just saw the ball, reacts to it, long return. Definitely the defense getting that ball away, giving the offense the opportunity, helping the Packers dominate this game.
And Lily, speak about Xavier McKinney and what he's meant to this defense. He seems to lead by example, obviously, with 7 interceptions now, but it seems more than just what he's doing in terms of picking the ball off.
Certainly, you mentioned that the locker room, he really has had a big effect in that DB's room because of his veteran leadership. He's been around the block a couple times. He knows what he's doing, and he's been a vocal leader to those younger players, and I think it's really kind of been picked up by the rest of his defense. I think a lot of guys mentioned it's just fun having him on our side and not playing against him, which has really been a good effect for this Green Bay Packers defense. They needed a splash move in the offseason. They bring in Xavier McKinney, and now he has 7 interceptions through these first 12 weeks of the season, so very impressive. So you can talk about how good of a player he is, but I think he's an even better person, and the guys in the locker room will certainly attest to that.
And Tim, this defense really kind of they set the tone. I mean, they were the ones to establish good field position for this team. And while they've still struggled to get to the quarterback, they had 2 sacks today. Each sack was big, one forcing a 3 and out, the other one causing a turnover and a fumble. How can this defensive line improve from what we've seen recently and get to the quarterback? Because even with a backup quarterback and Trent Williams not playing for the Niners, they couldn't quite get there.
You're right, and I think that should be noted, Brandon. Brandon Adel on the first sack looked like he hadn't played in 3 years to me, which he hadn't. But he settled into the game, and the Packers did come up with another sack later that obviously was critical. I don't know how you do it, Brandon. Jeff Hafley, the new defensive coordinator, he's stressing it. They want to be more attacking. They've had some success this year against lesser offensive lines. They have not been able to put it together consistently. Kingsley Enagbari did run right past the sack today, so he's at least an active player getting through there, but you have to get the quarterbacks down or get in their faces.
Yeah, and that was something that, like we just said, hasn't been consistent yet this year. Let's switch sides of the ball, and on offense, this was Josh Jacobs' day, Lily. I mean, he set the tone right away with his first run of the game, and then he pounds it in 3 different times for the 3rd time in his career. What did he mean to this game in particular?
He meant everything because you talk about, first of all, short yardage situations at the goal line. He's able to capitalize a couple times, able to grind out a bunch of yards for the Packers just to keep this Niners this Niners offense on the sideline as well. So he was doing everything he could for this Packers team to will them to a win. And it was a career day for him. Again, 3 touchdowns. I think only 3 Packers have had a 3-touchdown game against the Niners in their history. So he's in the record books as well in terms of what he was able to do on the ground. But you can kind of see just how reliable he is and just his ability to kind of have a 20-30 carry day every single week for this Packers team has been impressive. He's carried the load. He was dealing with some cramping but wanted to come back in, sitting at those 99 rushing yards to help his team win. And the Packers don't win this game today without Josh Jacobs for sure. Yeah,
he finishes with 106 yards and those 3 touchdowns. Tim, we talked about it immediately after the game in our special edition of Fox 6 News, but this offensive line, not creating the biggest holes for him, but doing just enough to give him something to find positive ground.
That's definitely true. And Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks, who also got in there, they get some positive yardage. You have to have blocking to make that happen. Nick Bosa did not play for San Francisco. That was a big subtraction from their defense for sure. Jordan Love didn't have a real rough day in the pocket. So that offensive line has been a winning offensive line. Usually you can correlate to how's the team doing. The Packers are up there as one of the better scoring teams in the league, one of the better yardage teams in the league. And that offensive line obviously has a factor, plays a role in them also being 8-3, one of the most successful teams in the league.
Yeah, and that offensive line also creates an opportunity for them to score in the red zone today, Lily. They were 5 for 5. This has not been the typical situation for this team. They've struggled at times through the season, but today, no struggles at all.
None at all, and I think it does help the fact that, the Niners were depleted up front and on their defense as well, and they were coming into this game with a defense in the bottom third of the NFL in terms of red zone efficiency. So their defense certainly was giving up a lot of points there when teams were in that money down zone. And so for this Packers offense, they wanted to capitalize. We talked about their red zone inefficiency going into the game, but 5 for 5, very impressive on the day. Josh Jacobs even said, just give me the football and I'll make them pay, and he certainly did that in bunches. So again, this is a very encouraging performance for this Packers offense to come out of, and knowing that on Thursday when they do play the Dolphins, who can score, they have been efficient in the red zone and they have to carry that forward.
They did have to overcome an early red zone penalty,
Exactly.
though. You thought, oh, here it goes again.
Yeah, it did feel like that, Tim. That penalty made you kind of go, oh no, that's how this one's going to go. Instead, they find Tucker Kraft, who just bullies his way in for the score. He only had a couple of targets today, but both of them were so huge. What does he mean to be involved in this offense?
I think he's a kind of a heartbeat of the offense kind of guy just because of the way he plays. I think you have to get him some touches. The Packers have had fewer snaps the last couple of weeks. That's part of it. They just haven't had as many opportunities to throw the ball. Jordan Love, very low attempt numbers today. So they have not been throwing the ball much to anybody. They had some drops on the outside. Tucker Kraft pretty reliable and getting something done when he gets his hands on the ball.
And another player who really was productive today, especially on third down, Lily, Romeo Doubs, he did leave with what they termed as a concussion, so we don't know how he's going to be for Thursday, if he's available at all. But he was critical on these third down successful plays.
Absolutely. I think Romeo Doubs was just the sure-handed receiver. You look at that second touchdown drive that they had to make it 17-0, and on that drive, 3 third-down conversions for Romeo Doubs, a big one on 3rd and 11 as well, just to move them down the field. He's Mr. Reliable, I think, on those money downs for this Packers offense. So it does hurt them that, he potentially could be out on Thursday against the Dolphins when he might be needed. So I think the team rallied around him, but you certainly see how good those hands are. I know he had a drop that, that pass could have been picked off, but luckily it was not. So I know he wanted to probably have that ball back as well, but the fact that he was so key on those third down conversions was really big for this Packers team to drive down the field.
And Tim, with him possibly being out, we see a late touchdown to Malik Heath. Could he be the guy that we look at on Thursday, maybe taking over for Doubs?
You would think he'll be active. He would think this was a confidence builder for him. He had a nice catch even before the touchdown play, Brandon. So he's the type of guy who could be forced into a bigger role. Bo Melton could be forced into a bigger role here. And we go back to your Tucker Kraft. I know you like Tucker Kraft as a part of that perimeter passing game. Maybe Ben Sims. Maybe we saw John Fitzpatrick with a catch today, his first as a Packer. So I think you're going to have the ball in the air more on Thursday night than you did today to begin with. And you're going to have to probably compensate for Romeo Doubs' absence because just such a short turnaround to get him back off a concussion.
All right, Lily. Matt LaFleur beat his good friend Kyle Shanahan. Is this a monkey off the back, or is this just, hey, a nice day and we want to move forward because we might see this team again?
I think it's the latter. I think it's a good win for this Packers team. They've had more success in the regular season at home against the Niners than they obviously have had in the postseason. The Niners have bounced them, I think, 5 times in the last whatever years. It's been Heartbreak City against the Niners in the postseason. So while it's a good win over a quality team in the regular season, of course, Packers moved their playoff position up and potentially kind of soil the Niners' playoff hopes as well. It's not the postseason. I think when it's the postseason, it obviously means a little bit more just to beat this Niners team. But again, if they do face off, I think that game will mean more. But of course, a win over Kyle Shanahan and his Niners is a great win any day for Matt LaFleur.
And Tim, this team is 8-3, great record, but they're in 3rd place in their division. How big is that they're 2 games behind the Lions, who are maybe playing the best football in the NFL at this point?
I don't see the ability to pull in the Lions at this point. Now, maybe the Vikings, they struggled today, just got a win. They've been a little bit more uneven. Packers still do play. Of course, Minnesota still do play. Chicago still do play the Lions. So the Packers have their opportunities. You do want to keep pace, though, in the NFC. Even if you don't win your division, it depends on who you're going to match up then as the other teams slide down a little with the division leaders. So you have to keep pace and see what happens. I don't think there's any other way you can slice it. You get this one off Kyle Shanahan. Guess what? Matt LaFleur spent a lot of time with Mike McDaniel in his coaching career, too, and that's who he plays on Thursday night.
And speaking of that, he has Tua Tagovailoa, who's been unbelievable since returning from a concussion, and he leads the Dolphins today to a big win over the Patriots, and he finished with 317 yards, 4 touchdowns. I mean, ever since coming back, he's been the best quarterback numbers-wise in the league. Lily, how do they contain him and this offense, because they have so many weapons when he is under center?
I think it starts with the pressure up front. I think Tim alluded to it earlier in our shows today, but you have to pressure Tua Tagovailoa, otherwise he's going to make you pay. But the question is, can the Packers do that? Can they rush more than 4 and get pressure on Tua? And maybe it's not a sack. Maybe it's just hitting him. Maybe it's just getting pressure in his face to throw him off balance, to make sure that he is rattled and not able to throw the football to his speedy weapons out there. So I think getting to him will be key. If they can't do that, he might make them pay on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting matchup. And with you guys being in the atrium and those offices up there, have you seen anybody? Because we know those guys are working late into the evening, probably early into the morning to get ready for the Dolphins because they have such a short time. Tim, what does that mean for this team that they have to turn around and face this high-powered offense in just 4 days?
You like to be at home. That's one thing. You don't have to travel the way Miami does, but it is going to be an entirely different type of game, Brandon, I think, than it was today. So you have to flip the switch. You've been relying on Josh Jacobs. I wouldn't think you can do that to that same degree on Thursday night. You may not even try to do the same thing on Thursday night. So you need to get some of your defensive players back, like Jair Alexander against those speedy receivers that Lily talked about, and have a definite different game plan ready to go for the holiday.
Oh, it should be a very fun one on Thursday night, and as you said, if they can heal up, it could be even better. Well, the Packers president, Mark Murphy, will be inducted into the Packers Hall of Fame. This is his 17th and final season as the Packers president and CEO. The induction will take place August 28th. Now, in college hoops, Marquette had a big week, beating number 6 Purdue behind Cam Jones' triple-double. It's the 3rd triple-double in program history. Then they go to the Bahamas this weekend, where they knock off the University of Georgia. And the Badgers keep winning. They take the Greenbrier tip-off by beating Pittsburgh tonight. They're now 7-0 in the season, scoring at least 79 points a game. And one more team, UWM, wins its own tournament, the Cream City Challenge, by knocking off St. Thomas today, 69-65. We'll be right back with Say What.
Do I vote? I don't even know if I vote for her.
You really want to ask that question out of the gate?
I just like getting people's attention with something.
My significant other think he's sexy, so.
Wow. That was interesting. Was that Taylor Swift? I always tell him, I don't want to pat you on the butt and you poop in my hand, so.
Well, Matt LaFleur, worried about some things that probably most of us would be as well. Tim and Lily rejoining me from Lambeau Field, where he's upstairs working right now to game plan for the Dolphins. Who knows what he might say tomorrow with such little sleep and facing the media again. Anyway, let's switch gears and start talking about the Bucs. Right now, the Bucs finished their week. They were home all week, and they were 4-0. Lily, how big of a deal is it for this team to have done that? And are they out of the woods yet, or are they still trying to find their way?
I think they're still trying to find their way, but they're doing it in wins, and that's a good sign for this Bucs team, because you talked about they potentially could get to 500 in the next couple of days. So that's a good sign considering how slow this team started. But I think these last 4 wins for the Bucs have been very encouraging, and I think you see the emergence of A.J. Green, you see Brook Lopez with his defense as well, and you see this team just finding ways to win and trying to figure things out and get into a better flow of what they want to be and what their identity will be moving forward. And of course, easier easier to be done when they are winning games. So I think this 4-game winning streak has certainly been encouraging. They're not playing the toughest opponents, but that's the Bucks making the most of who they're playing and getting the wins that they need to get.
Tim, Lily mentioned Brook Lopez. He really came alive in this homestand, especially on offense as well. How important is he to the success of this team? Because they've relied so much on Giannis and Damian Lillard at this point. To have somebody else step up and take some of that scoring seems to really be a big key here.
Hugely important, and I personally thought Brook might be slowing down a year or two ago. He had the back problems, and he's really come back from that. I think should be commended the work it takes at that size with a body like that at that age to work yourself back into prime physical condition and now impact games the way he does on both ends of the floor. But you're right, Brandon, particularly offensively, they need somebody there right now. Damian Lillard's been a little up and down. Chris Middleton not there. Brook Lopez has been there as the sidekick for Giannis Antetokounmpo at this point. And guys, record-wise, NBA Cup. This team's just tough in the NBA Cup, Brandon.
2-0.
And the point differential in that is huge, too, of course, because it does play a role. Come on, right? And they have another game on Tuesday in Miami for that Cup. Lily, how big of a deal is A.J. Green? Because we hear after the Rockets game that he was the MVP, according to Doc Rivers.
Yeah, I think he's been huge, and I think when you have Giannis Antetokounmpo saying you're a good defender, that means something. There's weight behind those words from the Bucks star. What we've seen from A.J. Green has been great, especially defensively, and of course we know he can shoot the three.
All right, guys. Well, we have to give some congratulations now to Pat Murphy, the Brewers manager. He was named the National League Manager of the Year after his first season at the helm, and former Brewer Stephen Vogt gets the American League honors in his first season leading the Guardians. We'll be right back with our high school hotshot. Thanks for staying up late with us tonight. Her teammates are named Tipsy, Ali, and Guinness, and together they've competed on the national stage and even cantered to top honors. And that's why she's this week's Fox 6 High School Hotshot.
I'm Brianna Boucher. I'm a freshman at Lake Country Lutheran High School, and I do horseback riding. I don't know, I was like in first grade and I wanted to ride horses, as one little girl does. Yeah, usually when I come here, I'm like super happy, and it is like kind of like a calmer place for me. Honestly, I think it's more nerve-wracking being off the horse in the warm-up arena than it is being on the horse in the arena. I don't get like super nervous, but I still get a little nervous to the point where I'm kind of mean to some people. But it's okay, because I usually say sorry afterward. We have this thing called the World Championship Show, and I rode him for his owner in the 13 and under country pleasure class, and I won it. There's like 3 judges, so that's kind of how me and Guinness won. We had a first, second, and a fourth. You do find out in that moment, and then at the end, you do get to do a victory pass. You have the arena to yourself, and you have a blue ribbon, and you kind of just go in a circle. I still didn't believe it, but I still went forward, and I still did my victory pass, and I was crying because I was so happy. Some of the outfits are really pretty. I think mine were really pretty, but that's also because I picked mine out, so. I have this like little board made out of chicken wire where I hang up all my ribbons from the past 4 years, so I don't really have any space for any new ones. I have an army of weighted stuffed animals. I actually only have 4. My first one's name is Sprinkles. He's a pink dinosaur stuffed animal. And then he got a friend named Dinkles, and he's a green dinosaur. I have an owl named Duolingo. And then I also have a hedgehog named Gilbert Milton. I listen to playlists. It's called We're the Cheese because it's me and my teammate. It's got cheese in it because I can't swear. And also because we're from Wisconsin. I'm Brianna Boucher. I am a freshman at Lake Country Lutheran High School, and I won a world's title in horseback riding. I'm this week's Fox 6 High School Hotshot.
Well, at 8-3, the Packers are on to Miami, but at Lambeau Field on Thanksgiving night as they look to move to 9-3. For Tim Van Vorn and Lily's out at Lambeau Field, I'm Brandon Cruz. We will see you next Sunday night.